All right. Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me? Just want to make sure the mic is working. It's a frequent problem around here. Good morning, Jensenius. Good morning, Matt. How you guys doing? Just another calm, uneventful morning in markets, huh? All right. So for those of you guys who are not following what happened, I'll pull up the S&P 500 chart. We had a solid candle this morning, 4% in a span of about 10 or 15 minutes, which is like an enormous move on S&P futures. I mean, it's got to be like a Six Sigma move. Trump tweeted this morning that they were talking with Iran. Sounded like the war was going to be over. Iran then tweeted that we're not talking. It's a clusterfuck, honestly. I'm kind of personally just like mostly mentally checking out until this is over. Like trying to trade this is it's just taking years off my life. They're basically just I don't know. It looks like market manipulation / controlled demolition. I saw a report that somebody bought like $3 billion of futures this morning before the announcement. Probably nothing. I'm sure nothing to see here. This fucking administration, man. It's just sorry for the F-bombs. Apologize for the language. Before we go any further, remember to like the stream, subscribe, and join the free Discord. Link in the description below. We'll get the more frequent updates in there. Pretty nasty weekly chart here on the S&P 500. I do think we're getting into the range where we are going to find some sort of bottom. I think the real pain point for the administration, though, is in the bond market with treasury yields. We do not want to see a 5 handle on the 10-year or everything basically blows up. So I'm operating under this thesis that this is sort of like the you shall not pass zone on the 10-year yield. And, you know, I see some reason to think that this move up may be somewhat exhausted. We may get a pullback in yields here. We got a weekly sweep, a yearly sweep and another yearly sweep in here. So it's looking a little distributive to me, potentially on the monthly chart. I'm wondering if we get one last little spike up, something like that, and then we roll over. And that would coincide with like another move down in equities, another move down in crypto. But I don't know. Feels like we're getting closer to the end than we are to the beginning. At least of the sell-off in asset markets. I don't know how this war is going to resolve. It's going to be like a 20-year drawn-out conflict where Israel's just doing its thing or something and we leave. No idea. Guys, get any predictions on what happens with the war? I'd like to hear people's thoughts on how this plays out. I don't know that I have any edge in pontificating about this, but there's a lot of game theory involved here, and I like to think I'm a student of game theory. It's an interesting spot because it's very obvious to me that Trump doesn't want to be here, and he's trying to to get out of this, right? And it's very obvious also that the American side is they're kind of playing their hand face up in a way, right? As we often do in these wars, because like we have the constraints of elections, right? These politicians got to get reelected, and the countries we fight against often don't have that constraint. So, what are Trump's constraints? He's got a constraint with the price of the stock market. He's got a constraint with the bond yields, right? Which I think is more of a constraint. He's got a constraint with oil and gas prices. There's all these like lines that he can't cross, and that move this weekend where he threatened to bomb the power infrastructure, which would be like, I don't know, probably the start of World War III. Honestly, I feel like that would just really set off the escalation ladder in a way we haven't seen yet. That to me felt like a cry for help. That did not feel like a move of strength. That felt like a move of desperation. We also know that Trump doesn't care about like the boundaries of reality, objective truth, anything like that. So he could lose the war so badly and still just say he won, and I don't think there's anything stopping him from saying that, right? But that's not really the constraint at this point. If I thought that was the constraint, I think the war would be already over. I think the problem right now is that Iran doesn't want the war to be over. Iran's in a great spot. I feel like Iran is in a stronger position today than they were when the war started, which is just the height of fucking stupidity. They've had a lot of leverage over the Strait of Hormuz that honestly, I've been surprised that they haven't exercised more. And it's now becoming apparent like how strong that leverage is, and how much of a chokehold they have on, the rest of the world. We've got our own oil here in the US, so we're not as exposed, but markets like Asia are just, super dependent on this stuff, which is why you've seen like Korean equities, Japanese equities, just like kind of freaking absolutely nosedive. So, although Iran doesn't really want the war to be over yet, I think they do want the war to be over. They just want the war to be over in a way where they can like really just like show that they've won something and demonstrate that we're not going to go back in there again, which I think they have the leverage to do at this point. So feels like a little more pain, a little more groveling on the American side. We have to cry uncle at some point. We're going to lose the midterms. Gas is going to go to the moon. It's just going to be a freaking disaster. Bond yields up. We're just not that strong. We're not that strong. We don't even have the freaking military infrastructure to shoot down missiles indefinitely. We definitely can't do a ground invasion. There's no way we're going to like capture and hold the strait. Like there's just all these things that are just, I don't know. It's a recipe for taco. It's just whenever Iran lets us taco. Iran has proven themselves, from my vantage point, to be like a quite the rational actor in this whole thing, right? They've been very kind of measured in how they've escalated. We have this image painted of them here in the American media of these like death cult lunatics who are just like suicidal, but like actually they haven't really pursued a bomb. When we send strikes, they send like the exact same number of missiles back as we drop bombs on them last time. Like it didn't really start escalating until like we hit them again, and you can kind of understand why from their perspective they might start to ratchet it up, So I don't believe that the Iranians are lunatics. I think they are rational actors, and because everybody involved here is like kind of a rational actor, I think this thing ends at some point in the near future. And we see what's going to happen to markets, right? When it ends, like it's going to rip, like everything is going to rip. So I don't know. I feel like it makes sense to just generally be just averaging into the market here, right? Because it's going to hard to know the exact point when this stops just selling off like crazy. And it's probably going to be some V reversal 5% daily candle or some crazy shit on stocks. Like if we go like 5% in a 10-minute candle this morning, it could be quite the reversal. So when you have stuff like that, it makes sense, I think, to just buy. You go slow. I showed you guys this, last week on stream, I think, but my generalized thoughts are that, from a price action perspective, this down candle is basically just a rebalance of a fair value gap. And depending on how this quarter closes, like what we really want to see here is a close back inside 66.32 for a sweep. And then we can get kind of like one more shallow move. This would be perfect, right? So maybe the market recovers a little bit and kind of hovers here, closes above 66.35 to end the month and end the quarter. And then you get a situation where what I described could happen, right? Where you maybe get some consolidation here, and will they, won't they? And then there's one last kind of panic run like that. That's kind of the ideal scenario that correlates with a quarterly sweep. Getting a setup on the quarterly chart is nice because you can take like a really long-term long off of that. So base assumption, but like I said, right now this is just a stair step down, right? And if you look at the way that all of these weeks have gone, draw that in. All these vertical lines of the start of the recent weeks, every week has just been like a fake move up and then we walk down, a fake move up and then we walk down, a fake move up and then we walk down, fake move up and then we go down, fake move up and down. If you think the policymakers like aren't aware of like what the stock market is doing and like the levels on the stock market and the options market and stuff like that, especially with a guy like Besant in there, you're dreaming, right? They're clearly just trying to like inject some upside vol every time things start looking ugly, but like they can't break the structure of the market, right? I don't think they can just turn this into a bullish market unless the war actually ends, but they can manipulate the market up into supply. That supply seems to be too strong for the moment. You can see the clean rejection, very clean from the mid-range of this supply this morning. I would not be surprised to see us retrace this entire pump shortly, but like I said, I am not going to prognosticate too much on the short-term market here. It's just like you just look like a fucking moron when somebody tweets something 4 hours later. So yeah. The realist Alan says it depends on Iran. I think Israel can't go without the US. Your comments cut off here. Yeah, U.S. wants out for midterm elections. Iran wants to make a statement. New leader, dad was murdered. He's more volatile. Yeah, I agree with all that. The Israel thing is like insane. The idea that like we had to go in because Israel was like attacking them. It's just like the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Like if Israel was like, we're gonna attack, and we said no, they'd be like, okay. And they would not attack. They can't do anything without us, right? It's a it's a cluster of a situation. It makes one wonder: do they have leverage on the administration, or is the administration just fucking stupid? Because yeah, we got a stronger Iran now. We took the leader out who was not building the nuke, and then replaced him with his brother after killing his entire family. And now we also gave them more leverage over the oil. Like it's just, it boggles the mind. Anyway. Sorry, I didn't mean to make this a political stream, but that is kind of the markets right now. It is all politics, sadly. Let's see what else I got here in my notes. Wanted to talk about some things. Your Puma in the Discord. Oh, what's up, dude? You changed your name? Or are you a different Puma? Thought you had a different YouTube handle before. Let's talk about crypto a little bit. This is kind of the main tagline of the stream. So let's take a look, shall we, at the corn. Published a newsletter this week for those of you who didn't see it in your inbox. If you're not subscribed, magiclines.substack.com. Get my thoughts on the market. Try to publish at least one piece a week there. You know, we wrote a couple weeks ago, we were expecting some sort of reversal in this zone and to take a short back down to this liquidity here. That is still my base case in spite of the scary price action this morning. You know, last week's candle was just about as bearish of a candle as you can get, right? You have a weekly bearish POI right here in this fair value gap. You get the sweep into it and a pretty strong expansion down. So would be pretty surprised if we went back up here. If the war ends tomorrow, like, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, there's no scenario, I think, where the war ends and then Bitcoin dumps. So that is a risk to this trade. So if you're not comfortable trading with like event risk, then just ignore me right now, because you could get your face ripped off. But such is the life I lead. But I just don't think this move is done. Like, this does not look like a bottom to me. This is not how bottoms on Bitcoin form. They always, without exception, form with some sort of local low and a sweep, right? This is kind of like basic price action 101, right? If we come here to basically, the one minor exception I'll give would be right here. This was a weird spot, but like this was just a pullback from like a larger low we put in. So I'm not really considering this to be like a macro bottom kind of thing, but this was obviously a critical one. This was the ETF. Is it going to dump or is it going to keep pumping? We swept all-time highs. Are we going to die? No, we go up, right? So this is what I pointed out in January when everybody was getting bullish here, right? I said, this is not a bottom. This is not how bottoms form. This is going to be a manipulation and then we dump, right? I think pretty much the exact same thing here is happening that happened here, right? You can't look at these pumps off the bottom in terms of like, oh my God, we pumped 26%. That number doesn't mean anything in isolation. Like, what does that mean relative to like the prior range, right? This is the prior bearish range here. We dumped 39%, right? So the fact that we've pumped a little bit in that range doesn't mean anything, right? Like, this is the mid range up here. Like, we didn't even pump to the mid range yet. So this is just regression to the mean with some high volatility, because this moved down, had a lot of vol. I would be surprised if we bottom here. I would be very surprised. Even if the war is over and the war like kind of pumps us, I would still say that there's a good chance we just kind of top out, you know, above 80K and still go back down for those lows. Like, it's very difficult for me to see a situation where we come up here. If we take out this like 98K high, then yeah, I'm probably wrong on that macro thesis. But I don't see any reason to be rushing into Bitcoin here. I still think the minimum level we target is this key monthly low here at 58.8, and I do still think there's a good chance we just go for this 49K. 49K would be an amazing bottom. There's so much freaking liquidity here, and that would be like a nice capitulatory move. The thing that gives me pause is the 200 week here, right? So another sweep like another move back down, like a fierce move, and then move back up inside like this. After sweeping this out, reclaiming the 200, I might be able to call that good enough for at least a move back up to, you know, the over 100K. So we'll see what the market gives when that happens. The move down last week was just kind of so vicious that it didn't really leave anything behind. Like even this area here, these highs, this isn't really structural here. So I think the fact that Bitcoin like took out this area, it doesn't mean anything bullish. I think this is just kind of like a liquidity grab. I think that I'm kind of 50-50 this week on whether we push up into this supply right here around 74K and then go down, or we alternatively put in some consolidation here, sweep out the Monday high maybe, and then dump. So kind of agnostic as to how this takes place. I think it's a little too early to call a top, although it was a pretty ugly 4-hour candle that we just put in there. So wouldn't shock me if that was it for the week, but I'm still waiting to see more price action here develop. Same idea on Ethereum. You've got this same bearish weekly context, still expecting to trade sub 1700. I think if you're longing this without trading 1700, it's a little sus. I think 1700 could potentially give a very large move. Like I wouldn't be surprised if this stays range bound, goes all the way back to 4K and then dumps. It would surprise me 0%. But I would be open to longing at 17 on ETH. On the lower time frames, we've got similar story as Bitcoin. This is all just kind of BS. This isn't really structural. So taking out these highs, I don't think means anything bullish to me. Bias here is still bullish. I am viewing this as we had a move down, we had an accumulation, right? And then this, in my humble opinion, is your manipulation, right? And we should get some sort of pullback and then continuation. And if I invert the ETH chart, you know, not really a chart I want to be shorting, right? This is huge pump off here. We got some like kind of retracement, but this doesn't look like a top. This looks like a pump and then a kind of reaccumulation, consolidation kind of thing. So kind of wondering if this is basically just a accumulation, manipulation, reclaim of the range lows, and then we go higher. That's what I think is happening here. That's what I suspect is happening here. So I'd like to check both charts to check my bias. That being said, if I look at this chart and I see this, I go, that doesn't look like something I want to long into. This looks like something that we could push up and, you know, do that, which would go along with the long thesis, right? So just grab some little liquidity there, maybe tap into the unmitigated supply. Like that area looks pretty interesting for shorts, i.e. longs, right? So stocks aren't the only thing that I see being like bullish, like looking a little bit down the road. I think I can see a world where Bitcoin pumps. I can definitely see a world where Ethereum pumps based on the chart. So if you're not like a long short guy, I think you just sit on your hands and you wait for these opportunities to get a little long at these levels. Because I think they're coming, and I think they'll pay off. It's very easy to see how this all goes the other way, right? The war is over. Midterms are coming. The new Fed chair's in. They're cutting rates. People remember that like AI is a thing. It's so crazy to me, like looking at some of these Mag 7 stocks, man. Just it's like wild to see shit down 30%. When I zoom out, like AI is a big deal. It's going to change everything. I use this stuff. It's not without its problems, but like you see the potential and you see the rate of change. It's quite bullish. I think the idea that AI is going to kill all the jobs is fucking stupid. I think AI is like actually more approachable and accessible to people than computers were because it teaches you how to use it, right? So I could give AI to my boomer ass dad and he can actually figure out how to use AI and do things in his life with AI. Because all he has to do is say like, hey, walk me through what I do, right? So everybody's not going to fire all their employees to replace them with AI. They're going to give AI to their employees, right? And those employees are going to become more productive. And every company that's like firing employees right now and telling you they're firing employees because they're like embracing AI, it's not because AI is making the company more productive and they're replacing the employees with AI. They're saying that because the stock price goes up if you say that you fired people because you're using AI. The stock price goes down if you say that you fired people because you overhired during COVID and now, oops, now I got to cut, right? That's what's really happening here. You get a bunch of companies taking advantage of this opportunity, I think, to slash a headcount because they overhired. And these people are useless, right? In so far as that they don't add anything to the bottom line of the company. The payrolls on some of these companies are still like insane, right? So this is like also very, very, very bullish, right? You've got companies basically like slashing useless payroll, right? And then they're going to give the existing employees like access to AI, make them more powerful, more productive. You know, the bottom line is that like GDP is going to go up. Companies are going to be more productive. They're going to produce more revenue. We're going to create more things. We're going to get more out of the humans we have. Like I think it's quite bullish. And so I want to be buying all this stuff. I want to be buying more of this stuff. I think if you're like getting bearish on Microsoft, like here in this area after this sell-off, given the backdrop of everything, I think that's crazy. And I'm not saying to just necessarily go all in Microsoft, right? I mean, I'm using Microsoft as a stand-in for a lot of other companies. It's a good, like, kind of prototypical, kind of average, big tech-ish kind of company. It's a couple companies that like I'm really interested in. I think Netflix is super interesting. From a theoretical perspective, right? Netflix's biggest overhead is like its cost of content. And if I'm just like foreheading this, like people are making AI movies of Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt fighting for like 1/1,000,000th the budget of a typical Hollywood film, right? So it's very easy for me to see a world where like Netflix just almost like zeroes out, but dramatically slashes like the main cost center of their business. They're also just a very like tech forward company to begin with. They're very, very like techie company. So I think they're going to use AI to their benefit, like more so than like the average company. The chart looks really, really interesting to me. Like if I clean this up a little bit, show you what I'm looking at here. So we've got this top, right? This is a flat top. So I look at this immediately and I go, oh, this this is getting taken. Like price is going back here. There's no freaking way like this is the perma top. So we got a top. It's a solid 45% from where we currently are. That's chill. That's good. We like that. We zoom out even more to the yearly chart. What do we see? We see a yearly imbalance, fair value gap. When we have one direction price movement, price comes back to the gap, it tends to react bullishly off the gap, unless price has swept something out here already and the move is over. But we don't think the move is over. So this is probably a bounce area, right? So on the monthly chart, what do we have? We've got a bullish engulfing candle, right? Sweeps into the fair value gap, closes above. So as far as I'm concerned, like I'm assuming the low is in. I'm assuming the low is in, and now it's a question of looking to the lower time frames and seeing what things look like. Like this weekly chart, the weekly chart looks like it wants lower. So no rush there on the weekly chart. But if we look at the daily chart, we say, okay, what do we have? We got a gap. And you see this shaded area here? This is basically the continuation entry zone. So if you get a reversal expansion candle like this, if price is going to keep expanding, it should bottom somewhere between the opening price of the next candle, which is right here, and the mid-range of the expansion candle, which is right here. So somewhere in here, we're looking for some sort of signature that a bottom is in. Ideally for me, in a perfect world, and stocks don't always trade this cleanly because of the nature of the gaps and the closure on the weekend and all this stuff, right? Whereas like in futures or in crypto especially, you like if this was a crypto chart, I would be like, yeah, this low gets swept out like 95%. Doesn't always happen due to the nature of stock charts, but the perfect thing here on Netflix would be to get a move down sub 90, and then on our 4-hour chart, put in some sort of structural bottom like that, where we have like a very identifiable breaker, that sort of thing. At this point, you would be aligned with a bullish 4-hour, with a bullish weekly, with a bullish monthly bias, with a bullish yearly bias. And you could potentially be looking at, a trade entry that if you like to keep a tight stop, might give you something like 6-to-1, 7-to-1 risk on like a trade. Alternatively, I think if you just want to like buy stuff for the long-term portfolio, this is probably like overcomplicating it, and it's just kind of like fancy mode. The simplified thing is that like price bounced off bullish yearly level, gives you super bullish monthly candle, has reason to go higher. So you just buy, you average in, you just buy, and then price probably go up. So pretty bullish Netflix. Haven't put on a position yet, full disclosure, but watching it. By the way, if you guys have any questions, drop them in the chat. I will get to all of them. Oracle is still probably the most interesting AI stock to me because it's basically just like kind of the most leveraged to the tits you can be on like CapEx build out continuing, which is, I think, going to happen. And I think the low is in here in this area. I don't love this monthly low at 134. So I'm thinking this probably puts in another move down. And then we're going to wait and see what happens. If we get acceptance back inside and some sort of move, that starts looking pretty sexy. This can go quite a bit higher. I would say that if we bottom, the bare minimum target I would expect is probably like 295 or something. But in reality, like I think the probability that it just breaks out and goes to new highs would be pretty high. And so again, if you're thinking about a trade from like a risk reward perspective, right? You could be talking, 4 to 1 to here, 5 to 1, 6 to 1 to all time highs. And then in reality, if this thing keeps going, you could go to $1,000, right? So kind of an interesting options play as well to just have a little bit of AI upside convexity in your portfolio. Would probably write some sort of spread to kind of offset some of the cost, with the, writing the puts below the 118 level. But yeah, I think the upside convexity on this could be quite amazing. And the chart is like a good embodiment of like just my general vibes on the market and where we are with AI and everything, and that like everything is sold off like to a crazy fashion, and a lot of stocks like Oracle, like Microsoft are sitting down 30%, down 55%, and sitting in kind of interesting demand areas. Oh, by the way, look where the 200 weekly moving average is on Oracle. What was it? Charlie Munger that said the best way to make money is to just be patient and buy good companies at the 200-week moving average. So I do own Oracle. It is already like a decent chunk of my portfolio. I want to buy more, and I want to add options to the position. I basically just bought some limit orders in the zone a few weeks ago. Wasn't assuming it would be like the Pico bottom, but kind of like a good enough, and let's see what price does. It's been good to see Oracle versus the NASDAQ. So Oracle versus the NASDAQ has been putting in higher lows. So a little bit of a bottom versus the index as a whole. A good sign, I think. Other thing I've been watching, IGV. Again, like one of the more oversold, hated things in the market. Kind of just chilling here at range lows. And oh, by the way, look at where the 200-week moving average is, right? I don't own any of this. I kind of want to just think about companies that might be in this, that might be unnecessarily. So I think some of the companies in this ETF have probably been sold off in an appropriate fashion. But as I wrote in a newsletter, like I think a couple months ago at this point, there are a lot of things that were sold off for reasons that they shouldn't have been sold off. Case in point on this, one of the companies I called out in that newsletter was Palantir. The idea that Palantir was being sold off in that sell-off was ridiculous to me. So we talked about that. Down here in the low 130s, this just looks like a reaccumulation and a reclaim of the range lows. Palantir is more bullish than it was then. Now with what's happening in the war, I think people are kind of seeing what the government is doing with AI. I think you need some Palantir in the portfolio. I feel pretty good about the bottom being in on this. Sometimes famous last words. I do wish we tagged that line. Didn't quite get the range highs there. But this was a nice fractal short on the quarterly chart, right? Expansion candle, sweep the high, take out the candle low. It's a bullish fair value gap there, and up we go, right? Similar kind of thing to what I'm expecting on equities as a whole, the indices. What's up, PD Marks? Welcome to the chat. What's up, the Buita? Good to have you. Last week on stream, I talked about LNG. Oh man, guys, I wrote a whole newsletter on this. I did a whole stream on it. I got distracted. I didn't buy this yet. Cheniere pumped had like a 20% daily candle. I think the day after the stream, Wednesday. Yeah. So I wrote the newsletter over the weekend, did the stream, and then 20-30% candle. Fuck my life, man. From a zoomed out perspective, the thesis still holds. I think LNG, US LNG, very interesting subset of the energy portfolio to have. A lot of these charts look super, super good. So I got to figure out how to get in this stupid thing still. That was a large fail on my part, but I'm going to be honest with you guys on my face palms. I do screw a lot of shit up. I'm still watching Bloom Energy here. I've started building a position in it. I do think it's going to probably take out the February low. So, somewhere in this kind of $93 to $128 range, big range. But I think we find some bottom there. I think we sweep out this consolidation and go higher. And then I think this chart looks really, really good. Until that happens, though, probably wouldn't get too over your skis with it. But I did buy some spot there. This would probably be the really sick area there, 107-ish. It's a pretty good level, but it doesn't have to go down here. I just suspect that it will. Alternatively, if we kind of consolidate here and then come back up and close daily candle back above 169 or so, I think this probably breaks out. So I like the company. It's super interesting. They do this kind of portable modular energy thing. It's got a nice tie-in with the energy crisis, oil. It's got a nice tie-in with AI data centers. It's kind of like checks a lot of boxes for me. So I've been pretty stoked on that one. Also been looking at PWR, Quanta Services. This is kind of another, well, not another, but this is like a picks and shovels power infrastructure play. Pretty bullish on the continued build out of utility infrastructure, power infrastructure. So this is kind of like a high beta play on that. I'm kind of waiting to see where the monthly closes here. I think if we close the monthly back above 573, probably okay to punt some options. Good enough spot though, just to be buying, right? It's just a pullback into daily trend right now, right? You're just buying daily trend. Looks like it could do another leg up here. Maybe the RSI cools off a little bit more, around 50 is where you're looking for the next move up to happen, but kind of a good enough spot, I think, to start buying. Tom, did we touch Sol yet? No, I actually forgot to look at Sol. I got a little distracted. Forgot to look at Sol. I forgot to look at Hype. I should probably go back and do those, huh? Kind of similar ideas to Bitcoin. So Solana, again, with the monthly chart as our guide, range lows, bearish monthly candle. I view this like same way I view ETH at the moment, which is that this is a consolidation and a manipulation. I suspect this is a lower high being printed. Don't have a ton of confidence in that just yet, but I think that left a gap on the way down. I suspect that we do some sort of, reaccumulation in this area and something like that. I've been building a position in this, probably like, I forgot what I am. I think I'm like 40% deployed on it. The invalidation on the idea is up here at 97, and you're targeting range lows, and then probably, if the move gets bad, I think we wipe out some of this stuff here, down towards, sub 50 or so. I could see it going. Again, like if stocks reverse and the war ends, like this isn't going to happen. So don't blow up your entire account on this. But I am still bearish right now on this, and I am still assuming that this is going to be a lower high. This is kind of like a textbook move you look for, right? You get what on the weekly candle is, you get a bearish sweep. Like this is very textbook bearish, right? You're expecting the next week to open, to fake pump, and then to dump. That is like the anticipation of what's going to happen. So nothing weird there at the moment. But obviously we have the backdrop of the war. Obviously, like if the war just ends tomorrow, like if Iran just for some reason says like, yeah, we're done, then yeah, this is going to get wrecked. What's up, Marty? But yeah, I mean, as for lower time frame entries right now, if you want to think about how to get into this idea, there's a couple things you want to look for, right? So there's a gap, a daily fair value gap here. We drew that out before. I'll put it back in. So there's the gap. You can see the rejection off the mid-range of the gap. So interesting to note thus far. Still too early to call a top for sure. You generally want to wait at least until the Monday range is put in and see what we do with the Monday range. So two options. Option one is that we, sweep out this range high, take some liquidity there, right? And then we just dump, right? Option two is that we go back to, some of this origin supply here. Kind of look at which zones gave us the dump. So this area here from, 91, possibly even running the highs at 96 is pretty interesting, right? So that would be the other point of interest up here. So if you're more of a passive person, right, you can just fill some shorts here, fill some shorts here, keep a stop loss up here, go slow. Or, you have these as like areas of interest, and then you're waiting around for, price action on the lower time frame to confirm something, right? So for our purposes, if I go back to the 1 hour chart, this is basically the Monday range here. Quite the range. So the idea might be that the Monday range gets put in, and then you frequently see this like happen pretty quickly. Like the Monday range is put in and you get some sort of like market structure, right? And then Tuesday candle opens and gives you like this shallow sweep closure below the 1 hour order block, and then it just goes. So this is a pretty common fractal I see, especially when there's like a big pump in the Monday range. You got to be cognizant of the fact that there could be like a shallow manipulation, a little subtle change in structure, and then it just reverses the whole thing. Option 2 is that this consolidates here a little bit, right? And then pushes up and holds, at which point maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, probably Wednesday, you get some move up into this area, and then you get a forceful break from that area, and then that's the top there. Option 3 is that none of that happens. It never breaks structure. It just goes and it invalidates the trade. So if you are a follower of the lower time frame price action, you can kind of observe this, wait to see what happens. Do you get the break? Do you get the Monday high manipulation? If no, then let it keep going and don't enter the trade. If you're a passive limit order kind of guy, then you kind of just got to like trust the higher time frame zones, and you just got to kind of trust the the bias that you have and fill the position more slowly. Day by day, you can kind of check the chart, see if it's like doing what you expect it to do. If it looks like super, super bullish after your orders fill, you can always cut them and just kind of reevaluate. But that's the general plan for Sol. Hype probably has another leg up. I think there is a lot right here, and there's the origin of this leg right here. We took a little bit of this liquidity there, and we took out all of this. We didn't take out the extreme just yet. And we still have this draw up here. We still have this like 4 standard deviation move up here. So I think it makes another push higher. Like our last couple of weekly candles been like very, very bullish. We left a fair value gap here, right? So it's possible we rebalance by sweeping this kind of flat weekly low. Look for something on the 4-hour chart. Kind of messy right now. Nothing there. We could definitely come back out, take this low. But I wouldn't be surprised if this kind of puts in a little low here and then makes another run up. But if you are holding a bunch of leverage or something, I don't know that I would be eager to just assume price trades through this area. Like it is possible like this is like a local top here. So I'm not personally trading this either way. Just kind of waiting. I want to get involved again somewhere in this larger zone here. Ideally something involving this area, whether that is a pullback to the zone and then up, or maybe we liquidate the bottom of the zone, which would be even better, and up. I have a strong bias to that. But that's basically the area of interest to me right now. I don't see a ton of value in being like tits long here, because this is a pretty major bearish area. And you can see we've traded up into the mid-range of that and rejected. I think you have to assume that this area gives a pullback. And if a higher low is formed somewhere in here, like we don't take this out, you know, we start reclaiming the moving averages, RSI resets, all those good things, then you got to assume that the next leg up begins. I still think the move ultimately goes to the, you know, the 50s, at least, as I've been saying for a while. So that seems like a pretty good target. Got some highs there we can run. Also, all signs point to 50s. Don't chase this move. Move already happened. Wait it out. I like buying spot here in the 30s. I don't really see a reason for this to go lower at the moment. So, you know, unless the price action on the pullback starts turning like super, super nasty, like I would be of the mindset that I would be looking for reasons to buy more spot, you know, somewhere between 25 and 33 or so, somewhere in there for those of you who wants to add. But yeah, this move is maybe not entirely over, but like I feel like a lot of the juice has been squeezed. What's up, Marty? War prediction, third temple. Oh God, I hope not. You think they're gonna fake blow up the mosque and that would be bad. That would be bad. Oh, all right. Well, I got a couple questions here. Tau. Yeah, let's take a look at Tau. Let's take a look at Tau. Let's clean this up. Go to the monthly. It's a messy chart. It's a very messy chart. $314's kind of interesting, maybe. You know, it's very hard for me to look at this and say I like anything. I feel like somewhere in this like 350 to 538 area seems like price wants to go there. Now that we've had this this 2-week candle close, it looks relatively bullish here in the near term. It looks more bullish than the other crypto charts. Yeah, bias would be up on this one from here for sure. Trying to think how I would frame a long on it at this point. Little messy. Be kind of interesting if we push up, mitigate this, reject, and sweep out a bunch of this liquidity and then put in another bottom. That would be an interesting setup if we got that. You would have mitigated the extreme supply up here, swept out some internal liquidity. We already Already took out this high, so there'd be nothing left for us to do other than rip higher. And as I zoom in here, I mean, there's not really any major supply until there, 443 or so. So yeah, I think my bias is that it goes to 450. Interesting. But yeah, I would still be waiting this range out a little bit. I'm not confident that this is really like a low. I would, at risk of missing the move, I would wait for this to get swept and then see what it does. You can see the Monday low. It's going to be right here. So there's your Monday low. There's some weekend lows here. Weekend lows. Yeah, well, I guess it sweeps out these weekend lows and tags some of this. Might be interesting to bid somewhere around 250-ish or something like that. But this is generally what I would be looking for. This would basically be kind of like a Monday range trade. So if you get a deviation of the Monday low, and you would normally take a Monday range trade to the Monday high, I think given the context of everything, you could just take the Monday range trade, but just take it as like a breakout. TP a little bit at the range highs, but you could probably take it to, if you wanted to be safe, I guess you could TP. This is kind of like an extreme internal liquidity point here at like 416. But yeah, that's basically what I'd be thinking. I'd be thinking if you can get in the trade something like this, if all that plays out, you would have a solid 2-to-1 there. So you could take a solid TP. You can't just not take your 2-to-1. But I don't see a reason why this can't rip all the way to this kind of 6-7-to-1 level at 417. So yeah, looks kind of bullish. Gives me a little bit of pause on my other bearishness. It's hard to imagine Bitcoin dumping in a world where Tau pumps so hard, but I guess it's plausible. Tau's been kind of doing its own thing for a while. Like this is just like a pretty gigantic accumulation. Like if you zoom out, your range high is your range low. 1 tap, 2 tap. So overall, like if I zoom out and look at this, like I do think price has to come up here and it probably rejects. But like if it were to reject and kind of come back down in here, that looks interesting. Something like this would look really interesting for a high time frame long, because you come up, you mitigate this supply, come back in, and then start putting in a higher low. Like you don't put in a new low there. And then you've got your 1, 2 taps of the range lows. And then you've got all of these liquidity points chilling at the range highs. Like I could see a move developing later this year from like 200 all the way up to 800 and maybe a breakout. So yeah, this might be an interesting one to put on the radar for long-term accumulation. Would have to wonder too, I guess, if I could see a world where this is basically, these 10-10 wicks are kind of unclean. Like if that wick wasn't there, I guess you could still envision a world where this is like a breaker. So if we push strongly up above this, right, especially if we take out this high and then come back down, I could also see us doing a bottom like that. But either way, yeah, it looks like an interesting long-term spot play right now. Like if this was bearish, and I did think it was going to reject from here, it should have rejected and gone lower already. So you're starting to disrespect the bearish PD arrays, which means it's probably bullish. It's not going to go in one shot. This is a major kind of area, but I think we reject off of this and then put in some sort of higher low, whether that be here or more ideally down here. And I would still expect it to go at least to the top of this range around like 222 in the future. But that could be like a really interesting place for spot. And I guess I could see why it would be bullish. It's like an AI coin, right? And I am pretty bullish on the idea of crypto just pivoting to like an AI narrative as opposed to like a money narrative. Makes a ton of sense to me. Makes a ton of sense to me. So yeah, keep an eye on that. Thank you for the suggestion there, Beast. To put this on my radar more. What's up, Doc? You want to look at DXY, the 2-year and 10-year? You must be a little late. We already looked at the 10-year. Just to recap my thoughts on the 10-year, I think the 10-year is putting in like a very high time frame, like distribution top here. I think this rolls over. Now this is like a monthly chart, so this could take months. But like I'm kind of just high time frame bearish on yields here, which makes me high time frame bullish on equities. The DXY we did not look at. The DXY looks short-term bullish, medium-term bearish to me, right? Like, because this is basically, as I see it, your sort of structural supply up here that caused a huge move down, right? I am guessing this is like a reaccumulation of shorts. There's a move up, and then we do this. This is my baseline expectation for the dollar. I've been looking at the dollar for a long time and saying, you know, it looks like a super macro bearish structure, right? So this recent rejection we had back in 22 during the bear market top kind of came very nicely in the origin zone of this recent leg down. So I'm expecting this to move down in the coming years. I am, but like in the near term, it still looks like it wants to push up more. And this is a wide range of where a top could be, right? It's could top at 100, it could top at 108. But I think this region is where we top. I think some people are going to view this as like some sort of reaccumulation to push up to new highs. I don't view it as that. I view this as the top of the high time frame point of interest. We go down, right? And then we confirm with a lower low there. This is an impulsive move. I think you get the expansion, reaccumulation, manipulation, expansion is kind of how I would see it, which kind of plays into my idea of just being generally like high time frame bullish on equities and probably generally high time frame bullish on crypto as well, because I think that when these things move, they're all going to move together. The Russell has been like really interesting to look at for me. The Russell is kind of like the crypto of the stock market. The Russell pumped 6.5% on that tweet today. I've been building a Russell long just because similar in the way to that, like, crypto sometimes rushes to like the point of the bottom and then it takes like equities a longer time to catch up. I think the Russell is kind of maybe doing that here because we've got this really key bullish zone here. And it looks like there could be a bottom. And if there is a bottom there, this is still all structurally bullish, right? Because there's I view the structure like this, and I would view this move down. It's just like a liquidity grab. And then you can see this like liquidity curve I've had drawn out here. I mean, this is the type of thing where like if we reverse, it can reverse like super quickly in like one shot because there's no supply to mitigate, right? If you zoom in on this move, you can see like all of the areas of supply, they've all already been like tapped into, all the areas that caused moves. We moved away from them. We tapped into them. The one exception might be there's maybe like a little area up here we haven't tagged. But for the most part, even this little wick up here today, there's just not a lot for us to do on the upside as far as rejection goes. So if this puts in a low, and maybe this was the low, it wouldn't shock me. Wouldn't shock me. But I'm gonna wait, I think, until Q3 to get a little more bulled up. Yeah, this all looks fine to me. I would say like you don't want to see a monthly close there. So as long as we can dodge that, I think it looks pretty good. It just looks like, a little sweep of the high and pullback, right? And if we're back inside here, the next move up is just going to go to all-time highs. So yeah, pretty bullish. Just a question of what happens in the near term here. UUUU. UUUU, energy fuels, rare earth play, a uranium play. I'm pretty bullish on this as a narrative still. We are in high time frame supply right now, so it's a little choppy. I want to see how this month closes out because when watching this monthly order block here, kind of normal for us to pull back into this monthly order block. I really want to see a monthly sweep, right? I want to see a strong push up to end the month and close back inside 19. If we're like lingering here, it's not super ideal, but I don't really see a reason for this area to not hold. The problem is it's like a pretty large area, right? This is like still like an 18% pullback towards this monthly flat candle low, which I think if we don't close as a sweep, I think if we don't close 1923, then I think we come down and we take this level. So I'll probably lighten up the position. If we zoom and enhance a little bit. See, there's not really much demand in here until there. But yeah, I'm still bullish this. I'm still bullish. I think we're just consolidating right now before another move higher. I think we got caught up in some of the other fear in the market. So yeah, reclaim here, back inside month end. I think this looks really, really, really good. We kind of reject and linger here. Probably wise to cut and look to see what price does in this area and re-add. Or if you're in a position where you don't care if you eat like another 22% drawdown, whatever, deal with it. I think this is still going like to, I don't see why we wouldn't go to range highs here. So I still like $80 for a near-term target here. Like, I think on the yearly chart, I'm just viewing this as a reversal right now, right? There's your yearly order block. There's your expansion reversal candle. We consolidate and we tag that yearly order block and we expand, right? So I don't think we just expanded here and the move is done. I think we expand, we consolidate a little bit, and then where does this want to go? I think this wants to go to this high, which is like $82. So it's a pretty big move from here. It's like over a 4x from here. When you're dealing with 4x moves, there's a lot of volatility. 4x upside means a lot of potential drawdown. But this just looks, it just looks like a huge expansion and a kind of sideways reaccumulation right now. So I'll be very surprised if this just dumped back down to here. Like, I'd be pretty surprised. I think it's definitely within the realm of possibility that we could come back down, tag like 11. So that's why, like, when I say, like, if the monthly doesn't close particularly well, it's probably a good idea to de-risk, because price can definitely do this. And that would be a 50% drawdown. But if you zoom out, it's nothing. It's just a pullback into the range high on the monthly chart. But I don't want to eat that kind of a drawdown, so I will definitely de-risk and look to add lower if we get that monthly close. But I want to give the monthly a chance to do its thing right now, especially since we just tagged this zone here. So can this little candle put us back inside this candle? If so, we've got order block, expansion, inside candle, sweep, reclaim, and I'd be looking on the daily to see if there's some sort of, change in the state of delivery. Something like that. Confirmation will be pretty bullish, I think. So, yeah, if you're in spot on this, whatever, I would just hold and I would buy more if it goes lower. If you are trading some options and some leverage, as I am, yeah, we're getting to the point where we need to take it easy on this for sure. I definitely was originally thinking this was going to be a cup and handle breakout, and it didn't do that. Did not do that. It's still possible. Still possible. This is just a larger handle, right? So that would be the next thing to look for. But again, like if we don't close the monthly well, this is just like kind of like bull hopium, and you should start thinking about the downside, because the downside is definitely range low. The downside is definitely prior range high. So potentially interesting level. All of this liquidity could get tagged, and the high time frame chart would still be bullish. It would still be bullish because, like I said, this is reaccumulation, expansion towards a level. Like even if we don't take the high, the thought that we're not going to at least tag 40 is like pretty low probability to me. I think this makes a move to 40. It's just a question of like, does it pull back a little bit first? But I don't think you get this like long chop and then huge move just to like V reverse without taking anything up here. It doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. Like if this quarterly candle were to turn red, that'd be a little sus. I wouldn't love that. But even then, I would just think that we're just coming into this fair value gap plus range high. Like I still wouldn't think that's a reversal. If we look at the entire expansion range here, you know, it would just be a move into the golden pocket. So, yeah. TLDR, I think it's fine. I think it's fine. It's a question of leverage at this point. It's a question of options. It's a question, not a question of spot, because I think spot you just be happy and buy more. Like if you get to buy more at $11, well, now that's probably an 8x. We like that. All right, I'm gonna see if we got any more questions here. Nope, I think that's everything. Thank you guys. It was a fun stream. Enjoy the volatility this week. I will be losing my mind as per usual. So got a lot of charts to check as I close up here. See you guys back here, same place, same time next week. Don't forget to like and subscribe and join the Discord. The link in the description below. Goodbye, everybody.